All right, beautiful people. Welcome to Day and Night Podcast. This is episode number 96. We getting on up there. We getting up there. So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody's enjoying their weekend. Be safe out there. I know it's hot as hell down here in Georgia. It's like 100 something degrees. So wherever y'all at, be safe. Enjoy, this weekend, this 4-day weekend, last holiday of the summer, I guess, so to speak. But we got another good one for y'all today. As always, beautiful people, like, subscribe, comment if you can, share if you can, and kick it over to Mark, co-host in San Antonio. What up? What up?
What's up? What's up? Happy Sunday fun day, everybody. Like always, appreciate y'all for following or checking us out. Dedicated, loyal viewers. You know who you are. Appreciate you. I know y'all watching, so shout out to y'all. Like Matt saying, it's a 4-day weekend, so enjoying it. Going too fast for me though. It's already almost over, but you got to make the most of it while it's here. So enjoy it, everybody. It's not as hot here like it was the last few weeks. We was in the hundreds. So now not that 97 ain't hot, but it's not as hot as it was before. So I'm just chillaxing right now under this AC. Too hot to be outside, in my opinion, unless you're at a pool or something. But other than that, like, subscribe, leave a comment, guys. Like always, I always look forward to these shows because it's really good topics. It's a mind opener, or open your mind, I should say. So I feel like it's important, and I love doing them. And again, I appreciate you guys that do follow us and watch it and do leave comments. But we need other people that I know that's watching. I know y'all watching, so take that chance, get out of your comfort zone, and just comment and just interact and engage. Get engaged, guys. This is what this is all about: is hearing different people's opinion on what they feel, what the topic we talking about. So on that note, further ado, let's get it started. I'm gonna let you do your thing, Matt, and as always, I'm gonna chime in and give my feedback
All
or
right, all
rebuttal,
right.
whatever you want to call
It's your opinion, your
it. Yeah,
perspective. Um,
perspective.
that's funny. You said it's not hot, and you said 97 degrees. I'm like, that's still hot. But
Right. Yeah.
it's hot anytime you say 97 is cool.
Exactly.
Y'all
Yeah.
must have been scorching down there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we hit the triple digits for like 108 was one day. I think we even hit
Yeah.
112. It was ridiculous. So luckily I'm at work all day. So when I got out, it was still hot, but it was literally, 100. One night, and I'm not kidding you, it said around midnight, it was 100 degrees or 99 degrees.
Dang.
I'm like, is that right? I said, there's no way it could be 100 degrees at midnight. Not here, but like I said,
Yeah,
it was 112, so it made sense.
that's
But yeah,
crazy.
that's how hot it was. So 97 is cool for us right now. So it's
Yeah,
actually
that
cool. The
just
guy
sounds
at the
funny when
store
you
was
said
saying
that.
that.
I thought you
Yeah,
were going to say
yeah,
it's like 85, 80 degrees. She's like 97.
yeah.
All right. All right, let me not get distracted. All right, so like I said, we got a good topic for y'all today. Today's topic is, I'm just going to get straight to it, is what is reality? And I was thinking about this for the simple fact I had a good conversation with somebody, and we kind of alluded to this last week when we was talking about when you having surgery, you get the anesthesia and you go out, and it's like it's
Mm.
just a void. You don't remember anything. So that kind of prompted me to think about reality and what is it exactly? Because there's a lot of famous sayings that people say. Mark, you always say one. I say it too sometimes. I used to be like, I'm a realist. And when you break it down, you're like, okay, what really does that mean when a person says
Mm.
they are realist? So as always, I do a little bit of research just to bring some context to it. So it's not just all subjective and there's some objectivity to it as far as the conversation. So reality, what is reality? According to some of the research is the sum of everything that exists, whether it's physical, mental, or conceptual. It encompasses all that we can perceive with our senses, understand with our minds, and even those things that may exist beyond our current ability to perceive or comprehend. And it says in philosophy, the nature of reality has been a subject of deep inquiry. Some key perspectives include. So these are some things that we're going to talk about. All right. So materialism, idealism, dualism, and phenomenology. Me, I'm more so have the philosophy of phenomenology. So I'm going to start with that one first. It's the reality, is the way things appear to our consciousness, emphasizing the importance of subjective experience. So that's why when I got just started saying with that comment or statement, I'm a realist, or some people be like, you just got to face the reality of it. That's always been interesting to me because just based off of like this right here, reality is really that person's perspective off based off of their subconscious and what they perceive the world to be and how they just perceive life. So in our actuality, that statement is kind of, I think, incorrect when people say that because that's your reality. Or that's that individual's reality. So how could you tell somebody else, hey, you just got to face reality? That's the reality of it. No, that's the reality of how that person sees it based off of their perception and their perspective on life. And it's interesting because we in the world to where everybody have their own reality that they live in, but they try to force their reality on other people. And in my opinion, I think that's why it's a lot of confusion, is because you got so many people that's out here that's trying to force their reality or their perspective on everybody else. That's why a lot of these podcasts and a lot of these shows are very interesting because it's really based off of somebody else's reality. And when we get deeper into the conversation, it's going to make sense as far as what I'm saying. But I just wanted to open up with that. So, like I said, I'm a firm believer in a phenomenology philosophy, which is the things appear based off of our consciousness, our subconsciousness. And I'm going to go a little bit more deep as far as things that came to me that illuminated to me this week. All right, Mark. So, based off of these three that I just talked about, materialism, idealism, dualism, and phenomenology, which one do you feel as though you identify with?
Well, I mean, I probably identify with all of them, truth be told, but the last one, phenomenality, excuse me, will probably be myself as well. But this is going to be an interesting topic because I'm gonna have a lot of different opinions. Going to sound like I'm contradicting myself at times. It's going to sound I'm pushed the envelope, so to speak. But it's something you said that dawned on me right now when you said one thing I do say I'm a realist, and not saying that you said that about me, but I'm pretty much speaking on not defending myself, but just speaking on giving you a better clarity on how I project or perceive when I say I'm a realist. So when you say people do and try to force reality on each other, I'm a firm believer in that too. I think that's the problem. Everybody wants the other person to be or think and move like they do. Now, if that person or persons agree and they think the same way, then of course that makes sense. And that's when I say, yeah, it's not so much enforcing reality, all kind of collide on the same thinking or mindset. But for me personally, I don't push anything on anybody. Like I keep to myself. I don't really say nothing. I'm very opinionated. Now I've been told that. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, yeah, I have an opinion for everything. But I never try to force it on anybody and say, well, you need to do this because I think it should be like this. I always respond. If somebody asks me a question and I respond and I tell them, and it's funny when you said that, when you said people always want to say I'm a realist or you need to face the reality of it. And to me, it's funny because when somebody asks you a question and then you respond and they don't like your answer, to me, that's the person that is trying to force their reality on you because they don't like your response. So they think you're wrong when reality and actuality, you think it the way you think. Like you said, everybody's perception is different. So it's funny when people ask a question, and then when the person tell them the first thing they say, well, that don't make no sense. Where you get that from? And then the person gives a rebuttal, but they think you are the one in the wrong, and then they saying you are misperceived and what you think is reality, or you think you real, you really not. Because I had people tell me that. What makes you so real more than anybody else? And I said, I'm not saying I'm more real than anyone else. That's just what I call it, how I see it. And it's so expression one of my bosses used to say. If it look like shit, it's shit. So when I say that, that's what I mean. I'm a realist. I call it for how I actually visually see it. If it stink, it stink. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try to make it sound different to baby someone else's perception of it or their feeling or emotion. Now, I've been told, well, you shouldn't do that because that's being not empathetic. But again, it's my perception, so I can only say it how I mean it. So that's where I feel like I'm more the phenomenal because I kind of see it for how I see it now. The next person can say, well, I don't agree with that. That's fine. But I'm not telling you to say you need to see it the way I see it. I'm basically verbalating to you, this is the way I see it in my lens. So that's where I feel like for me personally, when I say I'm a realist, that's what I mean as far as that. And I know everybody else might have a different spin on it, but for me, when I go to that route, when I say that, I'm calling it exactly how I see it. I never try not to sugarcoat anything because to me, it's okay if you're that person that likes to be told stuff to make it feel easier for you to be able to accept it. Me personally, I don't know why people think it's weird, but I like a person that's blunt with me. Don't play around, don't sugarcoat it. Just tell me straight to the point what you're trying to say. Tell me what you mean, not what you're trying to say. But that's perception right there. That's my reality. So this is why I say this is a good subject because it's so many avenues you can turn down. And to me, who really is right or wrong on that? Because, right, like you said at the top, that's that person's reality. Unless again you and the other person just eye to eye, y'all think the same way, then I get it. But other than that, I think everybody's gonna always see that in a different light. The reality.
Okay. I'm about to throw a twist in there.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna get a little bit deep on y'all. All right, so now this is what I was thinking the other day. I was like, okay, what is reality? And I'm pretty sure you heard this before, Mark, and I've spoken about it before. And I always open up. That's my thing. Is your thoughts create your belief, and your belief creates your reality. Yeah. I believe that 100%. And beautiful people, y'all can do your research and test me on it. Now, if your subconscious, if our subconscious truly controls our conscious mind as far as what we see and what we perceive, in all actuality, you're creating, like, the time you go to bed and the time you get up, whatever you experience during the day and whatever thoughts you have subconsciously, you take to bed with you and you get up, you're basically creating your reality and what you deal with on a daily basis. So all the people that you encounter with is going to be based off of your subconscious thoughts. So everybody, the things that they say to you, the things that you see is going to be based off of how you're thinking. And this is when I was like, okay, that's like I was going back and forth with myself. I said, but how is that the case? Because when I talk to people, everybody see what's going on with the election. We know it's an election going on. If we are watching a football game, we know it's a football game going on. So how is it that I'm creating that if there's people that I'm interacting with that see the same thing I see? This is when it gets tricky. If y'all could sit back and just look at it as, let's say that you creating a game or a video game. You get up, you go sit down, you open and put the computer on, and you hit play. You're literally like the Sims we talked about before. You're controlling yourself and the people you come in contact with, everything is based off their responses is based off of the way you think and how you perceive the world. Now, it's not going to be choreographed as far as you able to control what they say, but a lot of the interaction that you have is going to be based off the foundation of how you perceive things. And I think one good example of that is if you talk to somebody and you see something and you're like, man, did you see that? Did you see what I see? And they look at you like, no. It's like, how do you not see that? If you ever do that, you talk to somebody and they don't get your point of what you're saying, and it's like, how do you not see what I'm saying? And that just for the life of me, just don't feel it. They don't, resonate with it. So I think that's one prime example is even though that person is still in your reality, they're not part of your reality because they have a reality too that they're creating, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but I'm gonna go a different avenue, and I know you're gonna give me pushback on it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I agree with that, but also I'm gonna take it, like I said, a little stretch far left. When you say the perception is your subconscious, and that's kind of what creates a person's reality. I 100 agree with that, but I'm also, I talked to we was talking yesterday, friend and I told her, we're gonna do the show and what it's gonna be about. So we kind of got into the conversation. I'm like, that's why your butt need to get on the show. You got much to say. But anyway, so we was talking and I was saying how it's funny how there's so many different realities. Like one people always say is you gotta see the reality of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, for example, I said one reality is women can say guys are dogs, or guys say women are dogs, or hoes, or whatever. And they'll be like, that's the reality of it, because that's the way I see it. And then she said, but that's your perception, right? Just as you just stated.
Mm-hmm.
Just follow me, guys. I'm getting to my point. So I agree with that. But this is where I say I go a little different. I also would say, on top of that, yes, it's your subconscious, but I also feel like somewhat what you've been through in life dictates on what you start to perceive, what you think your reality, or you believe what your reality is, based off of things that happen. It could be your childhood, early in your life, or something. To me, I always feel like the core always starts in the beginning. So, a perfect example, I'm gonna use myself. In the beginning, when I was younger, I used to date women and they used to dog me out and just take advantage of me. So that helped me, not even say help me, but that made me create a reality to where I felt like I always say I can't trust women because women is going to do you wrong. And because I dated women that was married, that was in relationships, and they cheated on their spouse or significant other, that drove me to believe, see, this is why you can't trust women. And she's like, well, you can't do that. All women aren't the same. I said, facts, that's true, I agree. But I said, my reality is when you go down that avenue, it's hard for you to get back to and say, you know what, all women aren't like that. When you experience that, so now my reality is this is my vision of women. Now, like I said, that was when I was young. As I got older, I learned that you can't do that. You can't base one person off of a past experience. But the whole point and moral of my story is I believe that also is part of people's reality as well as when you say your subconscious. I believe things you've been through in life at a younger age kind of has a play in how you perceive your life going forward and how you see things. It could be anything: women, material, work. You may feel a certain way about certain jobs because what you experience, so now your perception is different. So that becomes your reality because what you experienced in the previous. So that's kind of how I feel with what you were just stating about the subconscious. I agree. So I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that I think that also contributes to a person's reality in somewhat whatever you've been through. It could be good or bad. And I'm not saying it's always negative. You could have a great experience in your younger life, and that's when you can go around with a great perception of life. And one person could be looking at the world and think everybody's assholes, and you looking at them like, what's wrong with you? Everybody's good. Ain't nothing wrong. Everybody love each other. And he's looking at you like, how can you see the world? And I'm looking at him like, well, you gotta go to your point about when you tell somebody something and you like, you ain't looking at the same thing I'm looking at. But I
Right.
think that's part of it too. Is again based off of somewhat what you experience in the younger, years of your life kind of helps dictate how your perception is going forward.
You know what? Another thing I believe is a key component to it, and we talked about this before in one of the old podcasts, is that I talk about a lot and say a lot is the programming. And the powers that be, they notice. So that's why at an early age, they always tried to push television, media. Well, now it's more so social media. But before, when we were growing up, it was more so like the TV commercials and the TV shows. So from the ages from 1 to 7 is the most sensitive time for a young child. And that's when they really start to develop who are they going to be in the future. So they're literally being programmed. And that subconscious is starting to build. So, and the reason why I say it is one of the key components is like racism, hate, sex, how you feel about yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you perceive other people, how you perceive the world. All that stuff is being built. The foundation is being built in that early stages of 2 to 7, and then from there, you're really starting to really develop your reality because if you experience something at 3 or 4 or 5, you know how when you're a child and some children have bad dreams and stuff like that.
Right.
So that already tells you that they're living out their subconscious through their dream. And then once they wake up, now they take that into their reality. They're creating their reality. So from that point forward, they're literally creating their reality until the time they transcend out of here. So I think that's something that was very interesting to me, um, as far as just that aspect of it, the early stages of us being programmed, and then from that point forward, we're really starting to build our reality. And this is something I want to ask you because I hear this a lot. I don't know if you do, but like a lot of the people I follow, they talk about, especially like Billy Carson. He don't do it as much now, but he always used to say that this is not real. This is a matrix. Nothing that you're doing is real.
Right.
It's just an illusion. That always, I won't say it bothered me, but it always had me thinking like that makes sense, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense because now you're saying the stuff that I feel and experience is not real. But when you really stop back and think about it, it makes sense to an extent to where you're literally creating what happens to you on a daily basis. Now, some people might say, well, that don't make sense. So if I'm driving down the road and some nut is driving wrong or drinking alcohol, did I create that? That has nothing to do with me. That's somebody else that's totally, in their world, and they're doing stuff that, they shouldn't be doing. So then I was thought about it. So that still kind of goes back to how you perceive the world. Do you perceive that they're, bad people? Do you perceive that there's people? Yeah, I know there's drug addicts out there. I know it's alcoholics out there. I know it's murderers out there. I know it's rapists out there. If you're creating that mindset that these things do exist, then you're going to create that in a reality. It may not necessarily directly affect you, but it's still going to be in your reality in the sense of the news that you watch, the stuff that come on social media, all that stuff is going to be, coming towards you because that's what's basically in your perception, if that makes sense. And I'm just curious as far as, do you believe that all this is an illusion and it's not real?
I mean, funny. I mean, lately I've been saying stuff silly, like just joking, making comments like, this must be the Matrix because this can't be going on. But I always say, now I say it more than ever. I always say this is we're in a multiverse because just some of the silliness and craziness I be see going on. I always tell myself, this cannot really how it be nowadays. Maybe we just in a different world, but the other world is the good one, the better one. This is the jacked up, screwed up one. So I
Hmm.
mean, I do believe sometimes we're in a matrix, kind of like like you alluded to, where it doesn't make sense when other things happen, like we don't create that. But that was a good, interesting point you just made when you said if you think about it and accept that, then that's going to be creating your reality. But here's where I question that and say, well, if you don't do that, then isn't that to me would be the same thing as just walk around with blinders on, in a sense, telling yourself that nothing's bad, so you don't have to experience it. To me, that goes against the people that's opening their eyes, that say, "Hey, I see it for what it really is," and it ain't good shit going on like we think it is. So, is it bad to say that? And just because you see it and you acknowledge it, does that mean that we're wrong for living that way, or should we be ignoring it and not think about it so that don't be in our reality? Because to me, then that means you're pretending that something's not there that really is, just so you don't have to live with that. To me, to teach his own. That's my saying. Teach his own. You do you, I do me. If it don't affect each other in some kind of way, hey. But then to me, that's the same thing as saying you ignoring the other person and what they dealing with, just so you don't have to deal with that. So that's where I sit with that is, if that is the case, if it is the matrix we living in, so do we just keep living like that and just ignore it because the ones that do see it, we see it and we don't like it, so we speak on it, but then we consider to be thinking overthinkers, or we're thinking too, I don't want to say crazy, but we're thinking too much on stuff, and that's why it's happening to us. So that's me, that's my dilemma. I'm like, is it wrong for that though? Why should it be considered wrong? Not saying somebody's saying it is, but to me, I feel like if your belief is you think the world is perfect and you don't think it's none of that, hey, if it's not affecting you, fine. But if it's affecting me and I call it and I see it, then let me be me. Now, this is funny. I was with a friend and she made that comment, why do you always think about bad stuff and just don't worry about it? It don't bother you, so why did you let it affect you? Again, that's my only comeback, is because I see it and I can't ignore it, because I can't pretend I don't see something that I see. And then she goes, well, what are you going to do about it? You can't change it, so why worry about it? So we didn't get to an argument, but it was like a debate back and forth on who was right, who was wrong. I just say, well, that's just how I visualize. I see stuff and I call it. And then her thing was, don't worry about it. If it's not directly affecting you, just go ahead and live your life. And that's what I jokingly said. When you live in the matrix, you don't want to see shit for what it is. You just want to live happy. And then she's like, so what's wrong with that? So that's why I posed that question. Like, at the end of the day, is it really that bad for people to me, I say it's segregation. You think your way, you think your way. If that's the people you want to socialize with that thinks that way, then fine. But I know that's not the way it should be. But
Mhm.
sometimes I think maybe, is that really so wrong?
All right, so you did a perfect lead in for this next one. All right, so now it's going to go into dualism. So dualism is reality consists of both physical and non-physical components. So, for example, both the mind and body exist as distinct but interacting entities. So that's like I've talked about before when we talked about the laws of the universe. I think it was law
Yeah.
number 7, where it has to be two sides, is dualism. So because the universe is dualism, you have good, you have bad. So you have to have good and bad in your reality. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily that somebody's going to have a perfect world and nothing bad happens. That, I hate to say, is not realistic, because we live in a universe that's practically is dualism. It has to be both. You know, you have night and day. You know what I'm saying? You have hot, cold.
Yeah.
You have
Right.
good. So it has to exist. So even though somebody may not have the same excessive amount of negativity or bad things, they still going to experience something. It may not just be at that level, because then it's really based on that person's perception of how they see it. You know what I'm saying? It could be like a slap in the
Yeah.
face or stuff like that.
Right.
That could
Right.
be something that's bad. but it's still something that's not always peaches and cream and roses and stuff. So
Right.
hopefully that makes sense and that answers that question.
Yeah.
So because we
Yeah.
live in a universe of dualism, it's always going to be good and bad in someone's perception. It's just what it is. It's laws of the universe. So and that kind of to answer your other point that you was talking about as far as um the whole matrix thing. And I touched on it a little bit, but I was just thinking about it again. Is like we're literally creating, and this is what I was thinking. I said, okay, if I'm creating my own reality, the people that I encounter in my reality, is that based off of some form of perception that I have about myself that I create these people that I encounter? You know what I mean? And then even like with siblings. So that's where it comes like, so did I create my own siblings in my mind?
Right.
So that's where for me it gets a little like, okay, it makes sense, but then it don't make sense because we was born into this world with some of us, not everybody, but born into this world with siblings. So, and like I said, from that point, from age 2 to 7, you're programmed, and then from that point, it's like you have the sibling, but you don't have the sibling. And it's funny when you brought up the multiverse, and that's something how I see it. I believe that we do live in a multiverse because we do have so many different people that have their own perceptions on life. So I always say this, my universe is not your universe. So if they live in their universe and I live in mine, then how are we crossing paths? If I'm truly creating my own reality, then how am I creating somebody? Because if I'm truly creating my own reality, I should only create, kind of going back to what you were saying, all good stuff.
Right.
So that's for me where it gets a little tricky. And it's like I'm putting too much thought into it, but I say, okay, I know I can create my own reality in the sense of the stuff that happens to me on a daily basis. I create that. But then the people that I interact with, did I create them? In a sense, yes, because if I'm more so of a negative person and I have a negative perception, then those are the type of people I'm going to meet. Negative people I have issues with and so forth. But then it's like, are they real? Because then they have their own perception. You see what I'm getting to? So I think that's where it gets kind of tricky.
So wouldn't that be more or less energy that you gravitate, that you're directing towards you, the energy of that other person? Because it's funny, the other day, I don't know who I was talking to, and they made a comment that it seemed like you only talk to certain people. And I said it's not that I'm trying to alienate anybody or act or pick favorites. I said I literally go off for, and I'm not trying to sound like you because I know you say that more, but I kind of piggyback. I said I go off of the person's energy or their vibe on how they are, because honestly, and I'm not trying to say I'm funny when I say this, but only certain people would come up to me and talk to me, and those are the people I usually interact with, because it's certain people that look at me at the gym or wherever I'm at and look at me all crazy. I'm like, what the hell? Am I an alien or something? I'm like, what the hell are you looking at me all crazy for? And they act like they don't even want to approach me. And I speak like, hey, how you doing? They just give me the craziest look in the world. But then it's another person to come up and just talk to me and just real open and friendly and just very good rapport with each other. So I'm like, those are people I tend to gravitate towards, is because I feel like we some way have a connection where we can identify and have a conversation. Because I'm telling you, it's just certain people I just will not deal with them. I mean, we work together or work out together every day, see them every day, won't say nothing to him. And the next person he's talking to, I would talk to that guy that he was talking to, but I would never talk to him. You know what I mean? So I always say that's why I feel personally that I feel like energy, vibe, whatever you want to call it, has a lot to do with it as far as your perception. You know, because maybe I look at them and have some kind of perceived prejudgment of the person. I don't know. because I don't really judge nobody like that anymore, like I used to, where I look at them and size them up. Because nowadays you could do that, and that person could be total opposite of what you think they are. So I don't do that anymore. So that's why I say I go more off of the vibe and the person that feel like they can, connect with me and talk. So to me, I feel like the perception that has a lot to play with it, but I say the energy too, though, will play a big part on that. But I mean, to go back to the perception part of it, it's a lot of people, a lot of things that I've experienced. Why I know now that I'm older, I can see is because of what happened, like you said, with program. So a
Mhm.
lot of things that I've done back in the day, I'm looking at now, like, yeah, see, that's why I perceive people or life this way
Mhm.
because of shit that happened previously. Now that's funny. It's a show that came on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it. It's with Jeff Goldblum. I think that's him. It's called Chaos. Very interesting TV show. It's like a little 8 episodes where it's supposed to be about the gods. He's supposed to be Zeus. But he have all of them there. Zeus, Athena, uh uh what's the dude, the one of that created water, the god of water? God, I can't remember all that name. Poseidon. I mean, he had all the gods on there. And it's funny how it's like a comedy, but he's on there trying to talk about how I need to create habit on earth because they don't start to believe in us no more. They don't believe in the gods. One lady's like, God, these gods are shit, and they ain't this and that. And he got all offended. So he said, maybe I need to start a war again and
Yeah.
and do this. It's just funny on how he is showing like these guys want the people to have something to worship, to believe in, and it makes their perception of life different because of that. So
Mhm.
it's a very interesting TV show. You gotta have an open mind because it's kind of like they're making fun of it, but at the same time, there's a little message in there. But you should check
Yeah.
it out. You should check it. It's
I'm gonna
called
check
Chaos.
it out.
Yeah, it is. I would start watching it last night, and it is this is interesting, very interesting.
But it's something you said that stood out to me is when you was talking about the energy thing.
Yeah.
And this is what illuminated to me when you said that. That's like you was 100% spot on. You attract based off of who you are and what your energy is. Now, because subconsciously you already said it, it's already there. You said that you only gravitate to people that has the same energy or energy that you like. So
Mm-hmm.
you're already creating that. So when you go out and you looking at these people, because you already said you only gravitate to people with good energy and people energy that you can associate with. So
Mm-hmm.
that's part of the matrix, if you want to call it that. And they're looking at you like that because you're breaking protocol and they're supposed to be there because you already identified that you only associate with certain people that,
Mm-hmm.
have the same energy that you have. So they
Right.
supposed to look at you like that because you already created that.
Right.
So that's why it's saying it's a powerful thing as far as our minds, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm having little health issues and stuff like that, and it's crazy because I've gone through so many different doctors, and every doctor has something different to say, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense because if you all a freaking doctor and you study the same thing in the human body, I know you got different specialties, but you still should
Mm-hmm.
have overstanding as far as how the body works. So
Right.
why is it this doctor saying something totally different and this doctor saying
Right.
something totally different? I'm saying a homeopath um, doctor, which is just nature, and totally different. I mean, she educated me on stuff I had no clue about. She sat down and she explained things. It was like a 30 minute to an hour visit. Where these other jokers, I go to them in and out like 5-10 minutes. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is that there are so many different types of people that's out there and different beliefs and stuff like that. So based off of how we're thinking and what we're creating is what we're going to encounter on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how is that true reality? Or is that reality that I'm just making up in my head?
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that had a point I was getting to. I like totally lost it
Uh-huh. No,
because it was
I would
something that
say,
you was talking about as far as what the energy thing. It just totally escaped me. So I'm
excuse
gonna
me,
let you say something, and then I'm gonna see if I can remember what the hell it is I was
either it
about to
come back
say.
to you. Yeah, well, I'm just gonna kind of keep elaborating on the reality thing. I ain't trying to sound like no kumbaya or nothing, but I feel like with reality, and from talking this last hour, been thinking about some of the stuff, and to me, the conclusion I'm drawing for myself personally, and it's going to sound like in a way that I'm just kind of ignoring it, but I'm not. I'm just really saying, at the end of the day, your reality is always going to be your reality. Like I said from the beginning, about associate with those that has that same mindset, because I think that's the only really way to be able to exist is to be able to identify with your own. If you're not an open-minded person to understand someone else, but you don't have to like it. And I think personally, that's a problem I realize with a lot of people is they try to make the other person like the way they think or think the way they think. Again, if you don't agree with it, that's fine. As long as you understand it at the end of the day, you be like, I don't agree with nothing you're saying, but I understand what you're saying. It's just not for me. That's your reality, whatever word you choose to use, do you. I feel like that is nothing really wrong with that if that's the way you want to live. Like I said, if you choose to interact with people that have different mindsets and perspectives, then you got to be open minded to be able to accept that and embrace it and not be judgmental. And I think to me, again, that's why I noticed just watching people, interacting with people, is if you don't think like them, they got a problem. When they try to sway you to think like them or act like, and I'm like, yeah, that's not who I am. This is not who I am. You don't have to like it, but just respect that's just who you are, your reality. But I just feel like nowadays that's where we have the problem is everybody's forcing each other's realities on each other to make them like it. Now, understand is one thing, but to like it or agree with it, if it's not you, it's not you. Like the way you think, I love it, so I could gravitate to that. The next person may get on here and talk, and I may not like nothing they saying, but I'm still going to let them be them. Be like, what? That's just your reality. We never have to say nothing again. But that's just me. But I feel like that's where the problem lies. Is a lot of people want their reality to be their reality with everybody else, and if that's the case, I know I say this all the time. Is deal with those type of people, like we were saying earlier your perspective or perception or your energy, whatever you want to use, what word, verbiage. But to me, old saying, birds feathers flock together. I mean,
Hmm.
hey, that works for you, then go for that. But I don't believe in the inflicting how other people think on someone else. And I'm gonna come back on something I'm big on, passionate, and it's what's going on in the world today. And I'm very adamant about that. So I'm gonna speak on that. But I'm gonna let you say whatever you have to say if you remember.
All right, so it came back to me. So
Yeah.
that leads me into the next philosophy, which is idealism. Reality is fundamentally mental or immaterial. Our perception and experiences shape what we consider real. So I was watching something the other day, and the person was talking about she was on TikTok and she was saying the same thing I was saying. She's like, this stuff is not real. Reality is not real. It's all an illusion. She's like, have you ever went to a doctor? Oh, she said this lady went to a doctor perfectly fine. It's basically called a placebo. Was perfectly
Mhm.
fine, and the doctor told this person they had disease or cancer, I believe it was, and the person left there, and like a month or so later, they wind up passing away. And it's like the moment we get bad news, or a person gets bad news, they automatically take it, embrace it, and then the rest of their life is dependent upon how they perceive whatever information that they receive. So my question is, do you believe that illnesses is real, diseases is real? Because if we truly are manifesting what we create based off of our thoughts, As long as we think positive things and believe that we're not sick, whatever the case is, we can be healed. Because it's been proven that people have actually healed themselves just by thought. So most people are like, man, that's BS. Ain't no way you can heal yourself just by thinking. So that kind of, for me, it goes back. It kind of proves that everything is an illusion and it's not real. Because if you can physically just think about it and say, I'm not sick, I'm healthy, and you truly believe it. I'm not talking about believe it by words. I'm talking believe it by inner inside you believe it. Mentally up here you believe it. Because that's where it all starts. If you don't believe it up here, you're not going to manifest that into reality and it's not going to happen. So that goes back to, is this truly an illusion? Because if you can heal yourself based off of just thinking I'm healed, if you go back to biblical times, the same thing. Jesus said to them, you got to believe. If you're healed, then you're healed. He healed the people that was sick, supposedly. He didn't do no surgery on them. He ain't giving no medication. He just spoke it. He said it starts with your mind. So that right there tells you that everything starts with your mind, and all this stuff possibly is an illusion. It's not real. So that's just food for thought. And I really want you to answer that question, or how you see it, if you feel as though that is possible based off of if someone can heal themselves. And I want to say heal themselves because they was never sick. It was just they were sick because they thought they were sick. And I'm going to say this last piece. I talked to Candy today, and she said something that was really profound. She was like, she was having issues with her knees. And she's like, the doctor said the worst thing she could possibly say to me. I thought she was saying like the lady cursed her out or something. She was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's possibly could happen to you. I would hate for you to have to live with that for the rest of your life. And she said that messed her up and it stressed her out so bad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So that just goes to show you, if you take it, receive it, process it, from here on out, you create net reality for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to take my time on this one, y'all. So please bear with me. It's a good question. It's very challenging because I mean I ain't no doctor on this, so I know a lot of nurses and doctors that we go back and forth on this because I always used to say that and still do say it's all in your mind. And I'm gonna take y'all back a little bit when Jay was here, our brother Jay, and he used to get mad at me because he used to have asthma. I mean, to me, I still do. I don't have it all the time, but when we go places, I'll grab my pump and I always use it. He'd get mad at me. Why are you always using that damn thing? I said, because I'm having an asthma attack. And he was saying, I'm not sure. This is what he said. You ain't having no asthma attack. That's just in your mind. So I'm sitting here looking like, dude, I can't breathe. Like, I literally losing my breath. So I think I have asthma. He said, well, you keep telling yourself that you automatically going to react. Your body's going to respond to what you're telling it to do. So on that aspect, I'm a firm believer that the healing part, I'm gonna say we can, if it's stuff that's been scientifically proven that we are sick some kind of way, I think we can catch it in the beginning and prevent it mentally by healing ourselves. But if it already passed that, then what's done is done. I think damage is done. You can't go back and heal yourself. Now, if it's in the early stages, I believe that because you made a good point when you said what you've been told. I had people that told me that the doctor told them. This one guy's telling me a story that the doctor told him he had cancer. I forget what kind of cancer he had, and he was just like dumbfounded, like I can't believe it because he lived a pretty much healthy life and he was doing everything he's supposed to. And he was telling me how at one point he was going to take that doctor's word for it and just change his whole lifestyle, kind of live the life like he's ready to prepare himself for death. And he said, you know what? Something told me don't do it. That's one doctor. He got another opinion. I think he went to like 2, 3 doctors that told him the same thing. And then he's like, you know what? He went and started talking to people that just could self-heal with herbs and oils and all that. and he said he went to Mexico and he talked to somebody in Mexico and they gave him some kind of plants or something to help heal himself. And he said he's been 100% cured ever since. And he said the whole key to that was the mindset. He said he'd start meditating. And he was telling me that you can heal yourself because you're convincing yourself that you can get better. But if you want those people that's going to take that with a grain of salt, I mean, for word, and say, oh, I'm about to die. Yeah, you're going to let yourself die because now you're mentally preparing yourself. So you allow your body to respond. So to me, I feel like, yeah, if you let them tell you and you don't do any other precautions or research, you will ultimately speed up the process. So to answer your question, yeah, I do think you can heal yourself. Again, if it's in the early stages, I feel like if you mentally prepare yourself, you can get away from that. Because what's name, a friend of mine always tell me that I get headaches sometimes. And I know when I get a headache, I know me. I know if I don't drink enough fluids, if I don't eat and it's in the heat, you dehydrate. So I automatically start getting headaches. She always tell me, you got migraines. I said, I ain't no damn migraines. It's just a regular headache. No, you having a migraine. So I'm like, how you gonna tell me what I have? So more of the story is I said to her, if I keep telling myself, yeah, I got migraines, I'm gonna start getting migraines because now I'm allowing my body to accept that and say, yes, this is a migraine headache. Instead of saying it's a mild headache, I need to keep up with my fluids, eat the right foods, do what I'm supposed to do, I won't get any more headaches. So I know there's a lot playing that could be high blood pressure and all of that. It may be high sodium. So like I said, if you check all the boxes and everything pans out, at the end of the day, is your mental. It's going to be the last final call on what you determine your body is going to do. And I'm a firm believer in that, you know. And I remember when I had the surgery, and the doctor told me that this surgery, the recovery was going to take 6 months. I'll kid you not. I tore my tendon, you know, man. You know, we both had the same injury. I tore it in June, had the surgery. I went back to work in October. That's what, 4 months, 3 months? It was supposed to be a 6-month rehab. I got better and was able to go back to work in October, got off the pain pills after the one doses package he gave me, and that was it. So I just kept telling myself, you know, this is not pain, it's okay. And I got through it. The doctor was like, that's crazy how fast you healed. And that's not normal for this type of procedure. You, like 6 months earlier in your healing process. Now he did say it could have been because it's your first ever surgery or injury, so your body recovered faster because of that. But then he said you must have a strong mind because you allow yourself to recover. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to be stuck in the bed or bedridden. So I was going around doing active things. I remember I went on my first cruise. And I asked the doctor, I said, can I go on a cruise? He's like, yeah, just don't be out there doing nothing crazy. So I still went on a cruise. Damn leg brace and everything. So the point I'm making is everything you do is mental. So if you allow yourself to say you sick or get worse, you're gonna get worse. Like the cortisol that we have that allow us to gain weight if we stress. You know, if that cortisol gets activated and we start gaining weight. So that tells you right there that that's a healing thing that's right here. That's the number one what's the word I'm looking for? That's the number one resource to heal yourself, in my opinion. You know, so like I said, just to reiterate this, and I'm gonna let you go, is if it's in the beginning stages, I feel like you can heal yourself, depending on what it is. Now, if you about to lose an arm or some shit, obviously you can't heal that. But if it's something internal, I think if you got the mindset, you can heal yourself. I know that's easier said than done.
So you basically just answered a question, and I don't think you realized it, is that we actually are, I won't say necessarily, well, I guess in Matrix, yes. But everything is created based off of your belief. So you healing quickly, going back to work, getting off the meds is based off of how you perceived it. So you created that. So that goes back to the question that I asked, do you feel as though that any of this stuff is real? because if you defy logic as far as doctors wise, as far as the amount of time recovering and stuff like that, that only can happen only based off of your belief. And your belief was, I can do this, and I'm not going to allow myself to just sit here and recover on his time clock. I'm going to do it off of what I know I can do. So you created that based off of your belief. So for me, I think it's kind of proven evidence that this reality that we believe is reality is only based off of how we perceive things. And, it's going to determine how we move forward here on out. I just think it's a challenge for anybody to grasp the concept of nothing is real. It's only based off of me creating this. I think if somebody can truly grasp that concept of saying, okay, my life is truly based off of how I perceive the world, then I can literally create a better life for myself. If there's any doubt, going back for the scriptures and stuff for the Christians out there, that's why he said, if you had faith of a mustard seed, you can do anything you want to do, because I'm going to reverse it. If you have doubt as a mustard seed, you're not going to create what you want, because you have to be 100% fully into it and believe I'm creating my own reality. And all this stuff out here is an illusion, and it's only happening because I'm creating this. And it's just the nature of the human flesh is to see everything like it's no way I'm creating this. I'm not creating wars in Israel. I'm not creating chaos in Pakistan. I'm not creating children getting kidnapped. It's not that you're creating that. It's the mindset of thinking that this stuff is happening, that it is bad stuff out there. So, like I said, it's really, I don't know what that means, but
no, I just like it. Just the light bulb went off. I'm being slow today, but you pretty much said something that just sums it all up to me personally. Anybody else, like I said, everybody take it their own way, but basically the way I'm taking it, I'm not saying this is what you're saying. This is the way I'm receiving it. Is it could be stuff happening, but it's to me like when you're reading a book or something important, the things that are important, what do? We bookmark it or we highlight it. That way we always remember that. So I feel like when we talk about this, our reality is what we highlight and choose to accept and say, this is what's going on in the world. So in a sense, we watch movies and and it's funny, the other day I was watching a movie and somebody told me, all you do is watch killing movies and bad stuff. Like, that's all you like? I said, no, it's just entertainment for me. But if you start watching that, because I think that plays a big part, you will start perceiving the world to be a bunch of drug dealers, a bunch of murderers, a bunch of people kidnapping. So that's the only thing you going to see in the world, because that's like we just talked about. That's our perception, because that's all we highlight. And that's all we're focused on. So our subconscious mainly is focused on that, because that's what we're allowing ourselves to accept, and that's what we're reacting to. So in a sense, I mean, because like I said, I have some people that I know that don't think nothing's wrong with the world and think everything's good. And I'm not being mean about it. I just used to always tease them, like, what world you live in? Like, how can you not see what's going on? And then it dawned on me right now, like you said, it's just their perception is totally different. They refuse to allow themselves to accept all this craziness. They only see the good that's going on. And that's why to them, it's not that bad. And the next person probably see all the bad, and because that's all they highlight, that's all their realities allow them to take in. And I think
and you know what that is?
What?
That's the dualism that I was talking about. So that's the other side of your consciousness that has the positive side. So you have to have both. So even though your person can be creating a reality and most of it is negative, but you still gonna have the positive, because that's the dualism that has to be, because it's just the laws of the universe. So I think that's why so many people debunk it, because it was like, well, how is it some positive people? Sometimes I meet good people, or there are some good things that's going on, because that have to exist. So you're still going to have good stuff that happens in the world, even though majority of it to that person is negative. So dualism is going to have to be there. So some people is going to debunk it just for that theory alone, or that point right there. But if you totally if a person totally understand that dualism works and function in this universe, then you'll say, okay, I can still create a reality to where it's bad, but it's still going to be some good, because it has to be both. It has to be good and bad, regardless what my perception is of the world. It was something else that I wanted to touch on, but it slipped my mind again. So I'm just going to close on this, is that science approaches reality through empirical research and observation and experimentation, continually refining or understanding, overstanding of what real is based on evidence. So in everyday life, reality is often considered the world we experience. Is shaped by our senses, beliefs, and interaction with others. However, the question is, what is ultimately real remains one of the most profound and complex topics in human thought. Is what is reality?
Yeah, that's deep. Yeah, I'm just gonna close with your reality is what you make it, as you always open and close with, Matt. Your perception. So guys out there that's watching, at the end of the day, I think balance is pretty much the same way of saying it. With the good and the bad, it's going to be that way. But make your reality a positive one, whatever that means to you. Try to make it as positive as possible. That makes you be able to function and move on and move forward, and be able to ascend the way you're trying to be in your life. And just take that in consideration and keep it real. Not just stop. And just be real about it, and just be honest with yourself. I'm gonna say on this subject, and kind of look back and reflect, because I think again this is important. These are deep subjects that I think none of us really even think about. So it's something to sit down one day and just kind of reflect and do a self-evaluation where you at in life. So on that note, I think it was a good topic. It was very interesting for me. So I'm glad you had this one, Matt. Like always, bring up good ones. Y'all enjoy your Sunday, guys. Sunday fun day. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. Be safe, be happy, and live your life.
Always. All right. Until next time, beautiful people.
Yeah.